Today, June 12, 2025, the world of aviation was shaken by a terrible tragedy in Ahmedabad, India. Air India Flight AI-171, a Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner, was just beginning its journey to London Gatwick. Less than a minute after taking off, something went horribly wrong. The aircraft, carrying 242 people, crashed into a residential area and a medical college hostel. The crew managed to issue a mayday call from a low altitude of only 625 feet before all contact was lost. This event marks a dark day for aviation and for the city of Ahmedabad, leaving many to wonder about the safety of our skies. The human cost of this disaster is staggering and deeply heartbreaking. A total of 241 of the 242 individuals on board the flight lost their lives. This included media group, passengers boarding Air India aircraft, crowded airplane cabin prior to flight, Indian travelers at airport at stock at distribute _equally, 230 passengers, and 11 of the 12 crew members. Tragically, the crash also claimed lives on the ground, with reports confirming that at least 4 medical students were killed when the plane struck their hostel. The passenger list was international, with victims from media group, Indian passports, international travelers at Indian airport, Indian families at airport check-in at stock at distribute _equally, India, Britain, Portugal, and Canada. Among the deceased was the former Chief Minister of Gujarat, Vijay Rupani, adding a layer of public grief to the immense personal losses suffered by countless families. In the midst of such overwhelming loss, there is a single miraculous story of survival. One passenger, a British national named Vishwas Kumar Ramesh, was found alive in the wreckage. He is the sole survivor from the flight, a small beacon of hope in an otherwise devastating event. His survival is a testament to the unpredictable nature of these incidents. As the community reels from the shock, emergency services continue their difficult work at the crash site, a scene of unimaginable destruction. The focus now turns to providing support for the families of the victims and beginning the long and complex investigation. The investigation into the cause of the crash is already underway, though answers will take time. Early CCTV footage shows the plane descending with its nose pointed unusually high, which could suggest a problem with the aircraft's configuration, such as media group, CCTV footage, grainy still of descending aircraft, aviation analysts reviewing flight data, cockpit simulation with flap controls, at stock at distribute _equally, its flaps or slats, or a potential issue with engine thrust. While the weather was hot, with temperatures over 100 degrees Fahrenheit, it is not yet considered the primary cause. This incident is particularly notable because it is the first fatal crash involving a Boeing 787 Dreamliner since it entered service in 2011. International bodies, including Media Group, NTSB officials boarding plane, Boeing headquarters exterior, international aviation experts arriving in India at stock at distribute _equally, the NTSB from the United States, and Boeing will join India's AAIB to uncover the truth. The Air India tragedy does not stand in isolation. In recent months, several other high-profile aviation incidents have made headlines, creating a sense of unease among the traveling public. In January 2025, a horrifying mid-air collision occurred near Washington, D.C., when a regional jet and a U.S. Army helicopter crashed, resulting in the deaths of 67 people. This incident highlighted the complexities and dangers of operating in crowded airspace, even with advanced air traffic control systems. It served as a stark reminder that accidents can happen anywhere, involving different types of aircraft and under various circumstances, shaking confidence in the system's ability to prevent such events. Just a month before that, in December 2024, South Korea experienced its own major air disaster. A Jeju Air Boeing 737-800 crash-landed at Muan International Airport. The accident was catastrophic, claiming the lives of all but 2 of the 181 people on board. This incident, like the one in Ahmedabad, occurred during a critical phase of flight, in this case, the landing. It brought renewed focus on the challenges pilots and aircraft face during these moments, where there is very little room for error. The sheer scale of the loss of life sent shockwaves through the industry and raised questions about airline operational safety and crew training. These major fatal accidents are compounded by a series of other alarming events. Just 2 days ago, on June 10, 2025, a small aircraft went down off the coast of San Diego, resulting in several fatalities. While smaller in scale, it adds to the narrative of increasing risk. Furthermore, Non-fatal but frightening incidents have also been on the rise. A Ryanair flight on June 5th was hit by severe turbulence that was so violent it caused numerous injuries among passengers and crew. While turbulence is a common part of flying, incidents of this severity are rare and contribute to a growing public anxiety about getting on a plane. It is important to view these events in context, however. While the cluster of recent accidents is deeply concerning and demands thorough investigation, they represent a tiny fraction of the millions of flights that operate safely every day across the globe. The aviation industry carries billions of passengers each year, and the overwhelming majority of those journeys end without a single issue. The headlines rightfully focus on the tragedies, but they can sometimes obscure the broader reality of aviation safety. The challenge for the industry and for regulators is to understand if these recent events signal a systemic problem or are a statistical anomaly in an otherwise safe system. When a plane crashes, it is almost never because of a single, isolated failure. Instead, disasters are typically the result of a chain of events, where several small problems line up in a tragic sequence. Think of it like a series of dominoes falling. One issue leads to another, and then another, until the crew is faced with a situation that becomes impossible to manage. The investigation into the Air India crash will likely uncover such a chain, which could involve a combination of factors. This chain of events model is central to understanding aviation accidents and is the foundation for how safety improvements are made. One of the most common links in this chain is technical failure. This can range from a catastrophic engine failure to a small faulty sensor providing incorrect information to the pilots. For example, a hidden manufacturing flaw in a turbine blade could cause an engine to break apart during the critical takeoff phase. Modern aircraft have many redundant systems, backup computers, extra hydraulic lines, and multiple engines to prevent a single failure from causing a disaster. However, in very rare cases, a specific type of failure or multiple failures at once can overwhelm these safety nets and contribute to an accident. Human factors, often simplified as pilot error, are another critical piece of the puzzle. This does not mean pilots are careless. They are highly trained professionals. However, they can make mistakes, especially when under immense pressure or when presented with confusing or incomplete information from their instruments. For instance, in the 1987 Northwest Flight 255 crash, the pilots forgot to extend the flaps and slats for takeoff, which meant the wings could not generate enough lift. This error, combined with the disabled warning system that should have alerted them, led directly to the crash. It shows how a human mistake can be the final link in a chain started by a technical issue. Finally, external and organizational factors like weather, maintenance, and airline culture play a significant role. Severe weather, such as extreme turbulence or microbursts, can exceed an aircraft's structural limits or a pilot's ability to control it. Improper maintenance can leave a critical flaw undiscovered until it is too late. For example, a ground crew might miss a small crack in the fuselage during an inspection, which could later lead to a structural failure at high altitude. All these elements, technical, human, and environmental, can interact in complex ways, which is why a thorough investigation is needed to break every link in the chain and prevent it from ever happening again. While recent events like the Air India crash are terrifying and command our attention, it is crucial to remember a fundamental truth. Air travel is statistically the safest form of mass transportation in the world. The recent string of accidents feels alarming because fatal crashes are, in reality, incredibly rare. Every day, more than 100,000 flights take off and land safely around the globe, carrying millions of people to their destinations without incident. The odds of being in a fatal plane crash are less than 1 in several million, far lower than the risks associated with driving a car. The headlines focus on the exceptions, not the rule. The remarkable safety record of modern aviation is no accident. It is the result of decades of continuous improvement and technological innovation. Aircraft like the Boeing 787 Dreamliner are marvels of engineering, equipped with highly advanced safety features. They have redundant systems for nearly every critical function, meaning if one system fails, a backup immediately takes over. Sophisticated computers constantly monitor the aircraft's health, alerting pilots to potential issues long before they become emergencies. The very fact that the Dreamliner had a perfect 14-year safety record with no fatalities before today's tragedy speaks volumes about the reliability of modern jets. Furthermore, the entire aviation industry operates under a strict and watchful regulatory eye. Global bodies like the International Civil Aviation Organization, And national agencies like the FAA in the United States enforce rigorous standards for everything. This includes aircraft design and manufacturing, airline maintenance procedures, and the intensive training and recurrent testing that all pilots must undergo. Airlines are held to an incredibly high standard, and this culture of safety is designed to catch potential problems on the ground long before a plane ever leaves the gate. This relentless focus on prevention is a cornerstone of aviation safety. Perhaps the most important reason for flying safety is that the industry learns from every single tragedy. Every accident, including the one in Ahmedabad, will be investigated meticulously by a global team of experts. Their goal is not to assign blame, but to find the cause, or more accurately, the chain of causes. The findings from these investigations lead to mandatory safety improvements across the entire industry. New regulations might be introduced, aircraft designs may be modified, and pilot training procedures could be updated. In this way, every accident, as tragic as it is, ultimately contributes to making the skies even safer for the future.